Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the panel or you have not done so already, new to the panel, new to the show, and you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Ranty and Sleeping Warrior. Good to have you both here, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Doing okay.
Excellent, excellent. So lots of controversy overnight in the comments section of the rather ad hoc presentation that we did yesterday, Ranty. Don't know if you've read any of those comments.
Yeah, apparently so. You know, it appears that the platform that they've been mentioning might not be the platform that I identified. It might be a different platform. Again, you know, we're not 100% yet, but if we concede that it isn't that platform and we move past that and we say, what about the Met Towers and the wind farms? Explain that.
Well, exactly. That was the thing I was most keen to find out. It's like, what about the towers? And the only responses have been, well, yeah, the towers are wrong, but they don't actually seem to give anything conclusive in terms of what they might be. And yeah, there's more than one thing identifying what you've shown yesterday. But as always, It's being put out on a debate platform, so the whole point is to get people to come and critique it. Either it stands and ends up being really strong, or it falls. You know, that's the whole point of putting these things out in a debate format.
Exactly. Where are we? Let me just get a couple of things open, and I will walk you through the video again. I've been doing a little bit of work on the turbine side of things. Miles Davis, credit to him for that, because he gave me the kick up the bum really to do a bit more work on my presentation, so including the actual wind turbines and stuff like this. So it's all good really without him doing the wind turbines himself and then putting them in on the map. I wouldn't have been able to do it myself and get a very clear image of what's going on in this location. So all good.
Let me know when you're ready and I'll pop you on screen.
Yep, hang on. Let's see what we got. Right. Okay, right, so get rid of that. Get rid of that. And this was the video in question. It was a video that I took last April. So it was only, if you see in the top, can you see that? DSCN 0005.
I can't see the number, but I can see, I think it's
the video. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it was the 5th ever video that I took with this new piece of equipment, this P900. So I went down to St. Anne's Beach. I'll just rewind it a tad so you can see. There's the pier on St. Anne's Beach. There's a very distinguished, you know, something that sits at the end of the pier away from the pier. I'll show you on Google Earth. It is, there's the pier, and there's that platform thing that juts out a good way away from the pier. And you can see that this is where I'm taking the image from. So yeah, looking out towards Wales. I've seen some structures in the distance. Over there, Southport, over here. And when I start zooming in, what we see is 3 very distinguished met masts. 1, 2, 3. Now that one's quite large in comparison to these two. You can see the difference in sizes.
Is that because it's closer?
No. If I show you on Google Earth where these actually are, so I'm looking out over here and I've got the 3 met masts identified here. Well, I believe I have anyway. So what we're looking at here is met mast 1, met mast 1, which is here, met mast 2, which is there, and met mast 3, which is here. Now then, if we go to this PDF that I brought up, and it talks about the sizes of these masts. So they're talking, this is an older report. It says 2 meteorological masts at a height of 80 and 50 meters that were installed in June 2002. So when we look back at the video, we have, where are we? We have that one must be the 80-meter size. That one must be the 50-meter one, and this one must be an additional one, because you can see that that one's substantially larger than this one. And yet that one on the left and this one on the right are the same distance away. So when we play in a little bit more, there's a bit of controversy about what this is. So for now, I'm going to concede that I was wrong and move past that, because what we have the 3 met masts identified from the offshore. Where are we? Global offshore. Met mast 1, met mast 2, and met mast 3. And the distances to them are line measure 1, which is that one. Properties, measurements, 27.7 miles. Okay. It's 27.7 miles to that one. This one must be the middle one. Yeah. And the properties on that are 29 miles. Now, if you look at the layout of this area, there are no other wind farms in the area. There are nothing, there's no other met masts in the area either. These are the only 3 that it could possibly be. And if we play the video, you'll see as I zoom in, you'll start to see that the wind farm in the background are showing up as well. So
hang on, are they not in the foreground then?
No, they're behind these.
No, the met masts are in the foreground, right?
Yes, they're slightly before the wind farms. Let the video play a little bit, and I'll pause it on a. There we go. There's a good one to look at. So you can see these wind farms.
Hey Mark,
here.
How you doing?
Hello, gentlemen. We okay?
Not too bad.
Good,
not too bad. Good to see you.
And if I go to Google Earth, there's the wind farms, all lined out, as per Miles Davis, who gave me the incentive to do that. So this was the location where I was filming. You see me zoom in, and you see the wind farms behind it. And those wind farms are what? 20, let's see. Let's do a measurement, shall we? Let's do it from this one. See how far these wind farms are.
And are you sure there's no other met masts other than them 3?
As far as I can work out, absolutely not. That's the only one.
Calling a foul on these?
Sorry?
Is somebody shouting foul on these images that you showed up last night?
They say that might have misidentified the platform.
Of course they would.
For now, I'm going to, if they seem to have done a lot of work on this and say that the platform is misidentified. Now I can show you how I got to the platform, which was, where are we?
Yeah, I saw the upload last night.
Well, this is how I put in the Lennox satellite platform.
Yes.
This is the Google search. So the first one that comes up, if I click that, wait for the image to open up, it shows you the image of this platform with Lennox written on it. And if you look at the video, as the video plays in,
I'd say that's a perfect match, right?
I would say that's pretty damn close to the Lennox platform, what it shows on here. Right? So once I knew that, okay, offshore technology, that's what it is. That's the Linux platform. That is the right thing that I've identified. I then went down to the Douglas complex because it talks about the Linux platform being part of this. And when I click the image, you can see that the platform is indeed here with the wind farms behind it.
But that's got 3 platforms to it, though.
It does, yeah. But these move around, I believe. I might be wrong. Again, I might be wrong. This is my process that I went through last night.
Right.
So it talks about this Linux platform being part of this. Click this. The coordinates to that are here, right? So if I click on the coordinates to this, and I take the GP, the actual coordinates, copy it, and put it into Google Earth, paste, and then search for that, it takes me here, right? That's where it says that this is. There's the exact coordinates. This is the process that I went through to identifying where this Linux platform is, right? So if I'm wrong, so be it. But this is the process that got me to this way. And the distance is exactly 26.6 miles. Yeah, 26.6. Right, so that's how I got to that. If it's wrong, fair enough. But we have other things that are in the evidence, which are all these wind farms and the 3 Met masts, which they cannot argue are in this video. And if you're talking of distances, that all of this should be hidden. These wind farms shouldn't be seen. I'm actually on the sands, I mean, I can't get lower.
Right. So, right, I got a question.
Okay.
Can you go back to the Google Earth?
I can.
So the first 2 Met masts on the left-hand side.
That one and this one, yeah.
What's the thing in the foreground? Is that another wind turbine field?
This is, what is this? Oh, this is the Burbo Bank wind farms, set of wind farms, yeah.
So is it passing through turbines there before it gets to those Met masts?
We have clear line of sight through them. There are no turbines that are in the way for that. As you can see, there's individual turbines, so we would bypass that. And again, the line of sight to this, we would bypass that.
So go back to the photo.
Photo, you mean the video?
Yeah, just play it. Shouldn't there be turbines in the foreground before you get to the Met masts?
Not on the right-hand one, for sure. This is a clear line of sight to this one. And
Sure.
Unfortunately, on the video, I don't pan back around to show you the others. So,
because it looks to me, by reading the map, it looks to me that the turbines that you see in the background are the turbines that you've got on screen. But it also looks to me that the Met masts are in front of it and closer to us than what the turbines are. But you said that there's no more Met masts in the area that you've been able to find.
well, no, there is no more wet mass. If I go to Global Offshore Wind Farm here, now this shows you where the Met masts are. We have 1, 2, 3, and a 4th one that's way back down here.
Just zoom out a little bit, Ranty.
Oh, hang on. Yeah. And if we go over to the Burbo Bank one, which is the one that we would have to pass through.
Yeah, is there any over there, over that way?
There's none. If you look, you can see there's none at all.
So on the evidence, it appears for me, it appears that there's turbines missing in the foreground, but then it also appears that the Met masts, if there are more Met masts, they're not on the map, which is why you've identified them as what they are.
We can see that the Met masts are clearly identified on the Global Offshore Wind Farm, right? 1, 2, 3, and a 4th one way back here.
Have you got a picture of them, Ranty, of like a nice close-up picture of the Met masts?
Ooh, no, I don't.
Right. What I want to do, if it's okay, I want to read Al's comment. The first part of it relates to Nathan, so I want Nathan to respond. Al reads, great. So now you've gotten away with your telling so many lies, you think you can just lie outright and get away with it. Nate, do you want to respond?
Well, it's a debate platform. So Ranty's found evidence, done his due diligence as far as he knows, and then presented it for debate.
Right. So the use of the word lies from Al K is, again, exaggerated. It's like, no, Al, this is what he's come up with. If it's wrong, the point of the debate channel is for you guys to come and show how it's wrong. It's not telling lies. It's making assertions. You know, like how Miles did? It's called a debate. If he thinks it's wrong, he comes on and shows it. So that it's not lies, it's making assertions. There's a difference between the two, but it's supported with evidence. It's supported with research and it's supported with logic. If it happens to be wrong, bring it. Let's find out why. Anyway, Al goes on and says, the Lennox platform is a satellite platform in the Lennox field. The Douglas complex is the hub for the Liverpool Bay area and situated, funny enough, in the Douglas field. They are two completely separate structures, miles apart, that form part of the overall gas and oil production in the operations in Liverpool Bay. Here's some information on it. Lennox produces both gas, blah, blah, blah. Consider your nonsense debunked. Okay, so basically what he's saying is that the Lennox platform and the Lennox platform is a satellite platform in the Lennox field. The Douglas complex is in the hub for Liverpool Bay area and situated in the Douglas field. That actually doesn't make sense to me. Am I reading this wrong? His words are, the Lennox platform is a satellite platform in the Lennox field. Okay, I get that. The Douglas complex is the hub for the Liverpool Bay area and situated, funny enough, in the Douglas field. They are two completely separate structures miles apart from that. So he's saying that the Lennox platform and the Douglas complex are two completely separate structures. So what is the Douglas complex is a combination or a group of structures in the one area, and he's contrasting that against the oil platform, which is an obvious observation, but then considers that nonsense now debunked on the basis of that. Well, okay. One, you can't compare a group of structures to an oil platform, and two, if I've misinterpreted what you've said, then it appears, unless I've misinterpreted what you've said, it appears that your sentence makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Because the Lennox platform is a satellite oil platform in the Lennox field. Okay. The Douglas complex is the hub for the Liverpool Bay area and is in the Douglas field. They are two completely separate structures. Agreed. But I don't think that's, I don't see how that's considering something being debunked, because what you're saying is a group of turbines is not the same as an oil platform. Well, we kind of know that, and that's not debunking it. So I don't even think that Ranty's got anything to explain based on Al K's criticism, because the criticism isn't strong enough to make a valid point. He isn't saying that the oil platform is a group of structures. He's saying that the oil platform is the Lennox platform. And unless you can show that it's not the Lennox platform, and by reading your comment, Al K, this makes no sense to me, so I'm either misunderstanding it or you're not articulating yourself correctly well enough for us to understand your point. So therefore, Al's claimed a debunk based on absolutely nothing and a slur of Nathan, who is basically...
Which is what they do.
Now, I haven't seen most of it. I mean, Nathan rang me this morning while I was like 2/3 of the way through it, or 1/3 of the way through it, halfway through it. I haven't even seen most of it, but I knew that there was an issue with regards to the platform. But Al's claimed a debunk based on absolutely nonsensical grammatical sentencing that's not actually making any sense, because the claim is not that the Lennox platform is part of the Douglas complex. The claim is that Lennox platform is seen, and he's identified it, and he's confirmed it with the Met masts. He hasn't made any reference to the Douglas complex over the Douglas complex in the Douglas field, or the Douglas comp. It doesn't make sense. The Lennox platform is a satellite platform in the Lennox field. Get it? You're
doing what I did yesterday, which is reading it again and again and again, trying to get some sort of logic out of it or some sort of sense out of it. And Dale Ohio, we were chatting with him yesterday, and he was like, I've read that on Wikipedia. He's just cut and pasted it from Wikipedia and then written, consider yourself debunked at the end.
So
I have another observation I want to share with you. This was...
hang on, just before, hang on. So basically what he's done is he's considered you debunked based on zero evidence, based on a Wikipedia entry, which is the one thing that they criticize me for doing, citing Wikipedia. And that's all he's done for this to be a debunk. No, to debunk this, you need to show what the oil platform is if it's not the Lennox platform. You need to show where it is, and you need to show where that new structure is in relation to these things that are claimed as met masts. That's what you need to do as debunking, Al. What you've done as debunking is copy and paste from Wikipedia.
It may not be Wikipedia. I just mean he's done a web search on the location and then cut and paste where he's found. It may not be Wikipedia. Just don't want to be pulled up on that detail.
Okay, so in any event, what a tosser. Because, Al, you need to produce evidence for why the claim is wrong. That's not debunking. So, Al, you've been dismissed on the basis that it's nonsensical incoherence. Doesn't make any sense what you've written. Sorry, Rancy, carry on.
Okay, so this was the video that I did just before that. So this is number 0004. So again, this was the 4th video that I ever did. In this particular video, what I do is I'm on the other side of the pier and I'm looking north. So I'm just going to swing it round. So this was my location. And I am looking in this direction now. And I'm looking at the wind farms over here. So the first set of wind farms that I come to are 24 miles away, and the other ones are as much as 35 miles away in this location here. Put that in there. Anyway, and I'll show you the video of that as well, because here's the wind farms, clearly visible. Let's pan across. I need to revisit this area because it looks really, really promising for seeing some flat earth proofs. And what's actually amazing is that this grey area here that seems to be moving, this is where they say this is the curve of the earth or whatever. But if you look at the grey area, sorry, the brown area at the bottom, this is actually the hard horizon here, and I can prove that because fortunately we get somebody that walks on that in a minute along with the dogs, and the camera pulls back. You'll have to, the video photography was crap. It was my first attempt really at trying to film with a cheesy old tripod, but here we have the lady walking on the sands with the dogs. And there's all the wind farms in the background.
When you explained this to me yesterday, Auntie, you were pointing out the hard horizon and saying, well, this is perfect timing.
That's St. Anne's Pier. And I'll zoom in again.
So based on this, then, we can logically conclude that in future, we can say that the hard horizon is the bottom of the layer of what was previously known as the dirty air, which we now call as the obstruction, to the, or the inverted mirage that appears to the observer as obstruction. Thanks to Sly Sparkane for that one, because we didn't know what we were looking at. Sly's now told us.
I also have, I'll have to dig it out and find another video where this is seen, that there's like 20 people walking on the hard horizon. And never did they go on this part. They actually walking right across the top here, where we know the hard horizon is. I'll have to have a quick look for that, and then I'll represent in a minute. But yeah, so we've got it is flat in this area. So looking this way, we've got wind farms that we can see here from this location, and wind farms that we can see here from this location. So all this area is flat. And then we've seen from Hoy Lake, we've seen Blackpool Tower coming this way. We've seen from Barrow, we've seen to Blackpool, which was completely flat. You've done some observations of the Isle of Man, which appears to be pretty flat too. So we're looking at an awful lot of flat that's going on in this location.
Yeah, to be honest, when I saw your video last night, I saw the claim that you were making. I saw the first part of it. And my gut reaction was, anything that's got any observations in it, right? I looked at the distance, and I think, is it closer or further than my Blackpool Tower observation at 30 miles? And yours was 28 miles, I think, 29 miles, 27 miles, and I thought that's equal to Blackpool Tower. So then my next question in my head is, well, how big is this thing? And when I looked, and I know that the Blackpool Tower from Hoylake appears on the horizon like a pixel, but when you zoom into it, you can pick it out. So unless you know it's there, and all the locals don't even realize they can see it, but when you know it's there, you can zoom in with it on a P900, and then all of a sudden it becomes apparent that there is the tower there and you can see it. So my query initially was, that's a long distance to go, and it's very big. So my query wasn't that you'd misidentified it. My query was more how much of the Rob Skiba effect is on this, because Rob Skiba did that lake experiment where he showed that the skyline in the background was a lot bigger. It appeared to be a lot bigger than what it actually should have been. And I thought the only logical explanation for this is that we're seeing this atmospheric, what's the word, like lensing that makes it look bigger than it actually is, because otherwise it's too big. These things are too big. So for me, it's the application of the Rob Skiba, the atmospheric lensing thing, of which we have no science for, because the Earth, this doesn't exist on a round Earth. It only exists on a flat Earth, and it has to be called the Rob Skiba effect, because I've not seen anybody else mention it. But that was my first thoughts. They're big for how far away they are, and unless there's evidence to the contrary, then it must be lensing. So what my view on it is, well, if these people think that Ranty's misidentified it, really it's not about putting it in comments. You've got to show, well, this is what Ranty claimed, this is what it actually is, there's the evidence to prove it, Ranty's case can be dismissed. But doing it in comments isn't a way, it's not a succinct way of getting your point across, because ours didn't even make sense. And I tried to read it several times and I couldn't work out what he was actually getting at. So if...
I want to share something else with you. In the same location that I was doing these observations, we have land that's behind the wind farms that's easily identifiable. I've just taken a screenshot there, and I'm going to play around with it. Adjustments, brightness and contrast. There we go. You see the landmass behind now? If I crop that. You see the land behind it?
600%, Ranty.
Here.
Let's make it a little bit bigger still, maybe 600%. It is just showing up, but if I can only just make it out on my massive screen, then chances are the audience can't see it at all.
Right, okay. Well, let me open it up. It's untitled, isn't it? You see where I've just saved that? No.
So whilst you're looking for that, Anonymous Engineer claims that once you make a video, it exists forever on YouTube. Yet we know that YouTube delete videos, and we know that YouTube delete channels. So that isn't true, Anonymous Engineer.
Well, yeah, but I know the point he's making. You know, once you put something out there, it's there. You know, once it's published, there's kind of no getting away from it. Even if you delete the video, you know, there's a chance someone else will have deleted it and will re-upload it. And you know, for me, mistakes are part of the journey. So if there are mistakes made, I always keep the stuff published. As long as you make a retraction, you know, as long as you don't just leave it out there as though it's actually correct when it isn't.
Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, that a lot of the times that when you make the mistake, it's made in good faith. Initially, you have this perception, you see what you think you see, and in your head, that's what you think it is. And for me, the whole point of putting it out there for peer review, in this case on YouTube, for the ballers to attack, yes, you leave yourself open for the ridicule, but you also get the answers to your question. And if you think that you're seeing something really, really far away, and you actually realize that it wasn't as far away as what you thought it was, and it wasn't even the thing that you're looking at, then at least you're not having the misconception that you've seen as far as what you thought you did. It's been corrected, and you realize that it was just a mistake on your part, which is better for everybody. You have Nathan gets content out of it. the person that submits it gets questions answered, and the ballers have got something to laugh at us about in the meantime. But let's remember, the science isn't with us at this moment. We're all asking questions. Once you realise it's not got curve, the rest of it becomes questions, and anything goes. Really, anything really does go, because we know that it's flat, or we know that it's certainly not a ball the size that they tell us. That's the thing that we can prove with absolute certainty.
Can you see the land behind now?
We can. That's much better.
There we go. So we've got the land that is behind these wind farms. If I, again, show you where I was, which is here, I'll just put a little marker in there. So we're looking through the wind farms to the land behind. Yeah?
Yeah.
The furthest part we can go to is like 57 miles away. We've got these mountains in the background. So we're actually seeing these mountains from 57 miles away. And we're also seeing other pieces of land. If we go back to the video, there.
I've got to be honest, when you showed me this last night with the land, it did certainly lend credence to your positioning and your observations in terms of geographically where they're located on Google Earth, admittedly. But yeah, it seemed to all stack up.
Yep. So we're seeing an awful long way in this. I don't know what the curve calcs are on a 57-mile observation from pretty much sea level. Because those mountains, it seems like you're seeing an awful lot of those mountains.
I'm going to use this as an opportunity just to do a quick link, as we've just had about half an hour of debate thus far. Not much debate, but hopefully the information will be challenged in future. And I'll reiterate something that Anthony has just said, which is precisely as he said. The whole point of doing this is so that it is offered to everyone to either confirm it as a very strong piece of evidence or debunk it, so that it's then discarded and no longer presented as anything other than, you know, to be laughed at, as Anthony put it, by the globeheads, which if they chose to do it and use it for that methodology, that's absolutely perfect, you know, if that's what they choose to do, because they do choose to ridicule us, and, you know, why not cater to that? But by the same token, it's more important that we find out how strong the evidence really is, i.e., is it worth presenting in future? And when you get to something that ends up like the picture of the Isle of Man, or the composite image of the Isle of Man, it's ended up being really, really good. You know, it's been debated at length because it's strong, and things that aren't strong get immediately discounted, ignored, you know, debunked. And that's the whole point of doing it. So I'm very grateful to people who use the platform to do exactly that. You know, we've got Mark on at the moment, we've got Ranty on at the moment, and Anthony, who've all used the platform for exactly that purpose, to put their evidence forward to see exactly how strong it is. And in some instances, it's going to go forward and be used and be built upon. In the case of the Isle of Man, that's the best example so far. Obviously, we now have a flat Earth model based on that imagery. So that's fantastic. You know, we can beat globers around the head with that all day long. Fantastic stuff. And this observation that Ranty's presenting now, exactly the same principle applies. Same goes for Mark. You know, these things get looked at more and more and more and then become stronger, or they don't. And that's the whole point. But yeah, as I say, we've got about an hour and a half left on this debate. If you'd like to join the panel, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join the panel, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show if you've not done so already, as sharing the show increases the chances of a more diverse panel. If you'd like to support the show, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of them, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. Lastly, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there's about an hour and a half left on this show.
At this moment, I think it's probably worth bringing Mark into the conversation. Mark, are you still there?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
GeoStreamer is the same protagonist against your observation. Have you got your observation? Can you bring it on screen?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Essentially, GeoStreamer likes to think that he's got this all marked out and he knows all the answers. And I enjoy listening to him because initially, Ranty, do you want to flick yourself on mute? Initially, GeoStreamer, for me, GeoStreamer came across as like an academic intellectual, and I always tend to listen to them because they're generally speaking, they're quite well at articulating themselves, and they can make the point clearly and succinctly and concisely, unlike the rumpus. But anyway, so I listen to what he says, and his criticism is valid, it's fair. And but I don't always agree with him, because I enjoy seeing his perspective and then thinking, right, I see now why he thinks that. So I look at it from a third dimension once he gives his viewpoint. And basically the conclusion I come to with GeoStreamer is that he is fundamentally indoctrinated by the system in the exact same way that Hector is, and in the exact same way that others are. They parrot back to you the official narrative, and they'll come up with any explanation for why things match the ball, and they will literally, in Rumpus's case, he will manipulate evidence to support his position. But on this one, the claim is that we're seeing the calf of man, and GeoStreamer claims that he's misidentified the calf of man because it also appears to be something else on Google Earth and Ordnance Survey maps. Do you want to comment on the response, Mark?
It doesn't. He may be right. This picture does not. It's not 100% evidence. When the Irish Sea is calm, though, it is the calf of man. Now, is my screen being shared? Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
This area here is like a valley between the two. So that this is the north side of the island, and this is the southern side. And so, starting from this hump here, it goes down on the Ordnance Survey map. It levels out, and it does a little bit of an increase towards the end. And then I got this pointing to wrong. It's actually this bit here. You can actually see there's a gap in this hump here, and that gap there is the gap between the mainland of down of man and the calf of man. I don't. It's becoming a bit more pixelated now, isn't it? Can you see?
It's good.
But I can't argue if he's saying no, that's wrong. He may be right from his point of view. So I'm going to have to do it again when we get some good high pressure and a good crisp spring day.
But is it right to say that you've seen this in better conditions and it's more clear?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. And my own personal experience is I have seen the calf of man from that beach.
Now, ballers would say, the likes of Al Kay would say that you're lying, because even though there's no basis for you lying whatsoever, they would instantly out their mouth would say that you're lying, right? Which means that you've got the intention to deceive people, right? But from your own experience, you know that you can see the calf of man, and you're trying to capture it. Now, on this day, it obviously looks quite choppy. The weather, the waves look quite choppy, and you're going to get obstruction at the horizon. You're not going to see the beach. For those that still think that you can see the beach, don't understand perspective, don't understand that things shrink as they get further away, don't understand that things that are in the foreground, like waves, are big enough, and they're bigger than the things that are in the background. These people that still think that you can see the beach are a problem, because they're a problem of their own imagination, and because they fail to see what perspective is. But the point is that they will claim that you're a liar. Now, it bugs me when they do this, because it's one thing to make a claim that you're at 40 feet when you're only at 30 feet. And you know that you're at 40 feet, and you know you're at 30 feet, and you claim 40 feet anyway. That is deception. However, in this instance, what you're looking at here, you know that you can get better of, and you just put the feelers out to see what the feedback is, which is brilliant. So what?
Yeah, they're setting themselves up for a fall, because if they say that is not the calf of man, okay, we'll wait for a few weeks, and then when I show the same contour of land going across the horizon, and it clearly is the calf of man, then they're just going to have to eat humble pie.
I agree.
And to use the word lie, I've got no time for them. I won't even debate with somebody, because I'm not lying. I'm showing an observation and sharing a personal experience.
I agree. It isn't worth time I thought Al Kay, when I met Al Kay in real world, I thought he was an half decent guy. Online, he's an idiot. And he's got this very, very loose tongue. I wish that he wouldn't be so past remarkable, because sometimes he makes fair points, but he does it in a bad way. GeoStreamer makes fair points, but he does it in a good way. He does it in a criticism way, which is good. He uses a patronizing tone, but the points that he makes are valid. Whereas Al doesn't make valid points, and when he does make valid points, the valid points he does make are followed by like ad hom attack, which immediately invalidates his critique. Shouldn't be ad hom.
Yeah, they're attacking the man rather than the...
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I've no time for anybody who resorts to ad hom.
And I would encourage anybody that attacks you, if they do use ad hom, just to completely ignore them because of that basis.
Yeah, I'll call them out on it and say, look, you've gone personal, conversation finished.
Well, I was always told when I was younger, the minute somebody goes to ad hom, they lose by default because they've gone off topic. And ad hom is the submission point. That's the point in which they've submitted. But it doesn't seem to be the case online. In real world, the minute anybody gets personal in the real world of work, if you have a meeting in work and different people from different parts of the company come in and there's a problem and they need a solution and they want to know what your views are. If somebody makes a comment and then somebody else goes, "You're a fucking dickhead." I mean, how does that go down in the real world of work? The guy that calls somebody else a dickhead.
Minutes of the meeting, doesn't it?
Yeah, the guy that uses the slur is the one that's frowned against because it's personal. Yeah. But on here, it seems to be the more personal you are, then the more likely it is that the other person is lying or whatever. That's nonsense. Yeah. So the way I'm going to view it from like now on is that anybody that does any kind of ad hom, I'll just not even respond to them because if you can't be like at least polite about it, then you haven't got anything worth listening to. And
what do you want about, you idiot?
Yeah, there you go. So I'm not even listening to you.
Has Ranty got something further to say? Because I'd like to spend 5 minutes talking about gravity.
Go for your life.
So, well, just before you, there is one thing I'd like to share with you. It's just another video that I've just actually found.
Ranty, yeah, go ahead.
Where are we?
Can it wait? Just Mark's been waiting a bit, and he's only
okay.
got a tenth of the way through his demo. So if you can just let Mark get through his, and then we'll come back to you.
It's my diagram up of the
I've got you up now, Mark. So you go for your life.
Can everybody see that diagram?
Yeah, you're displayed.
Yeah, right. Okay, it's a heliocentric system that the Earth goes around the Sun at 66,000 miles per hour, and the Moon goes around the Earth at 2,290 miles an hour. And those two forces combined would give like a fairground waltzer effect of various stresses and strains going in different directions. And my point is that this is not measurable, nor can you feel it. But just as the Earth is going around the Sun in an anti-clockwise direction, when the Moon is furthest away from at one point of the month, the Moon is lagging behind, and 13 days later or 14 days later, it's actually in front of the direction of the Earth. Now, my question to the heliocentric system is, how can gravity work out when to slacken off and when to increase to keep the Moon in a circle? Do you understand the question?
Yeah, there's a change in velocity. Is that what you're saying?
Sometimes the Moon is chasing the Earth, and other times the Earth is chasing the Moon in that circular movement around the Sun. And so therefore the gravity would have to, the level of gravity would have to adjust to those two positions to keep it in a circle. Do you understand the question?
I completely agree. There's changes in velocity. If you add in the great attractor, it gets even worse. You know, there's all sorts of changes in direction, changes in velocity. It's ridiculous to assume that this works. Yeah, that's why we have relativity, to keep you in, a fixed reference.
Yeah, the Morgile did handle this a few days ago, and I watched it and I had to rethink it and did this little diagram myself just to get it clear in my mind. But when you're on a fairground and you've got you're in a buggy that's spinning around one pivot and then the whole machine is spinning around another pivot, you can feel those stresses, and that's the thrill of the ride.
Yeah,
and
the
so
waltzers.
The Moon is doing exactly the same thing.
Exactly. The heliocentric system is basically a giant waltzer. You're not wrong.
Yeah, and for the Moon to get from 12 o'clock down to 6 o'clock on the outside, and it does it in 14 days, it's traveling, it has to go about 1 million miles to get that. And if it's doing the same speed, because it doesn't slow down, or it's not perceived to be slowing down, it has a shorter distance for the next 14 days to get back into the original position. So it's a crazy system that cannot work. I think this is a fundamental flaw about the whole heliocentric system. That's my point.
Completely agree.
If anybody wants to,
I agree as well.
I've muted you, by the way, Ranty, just so you know.
It's this catapulting inertia nonsense that once it gets to the point where it needs to start coming back to itself, that is a change in direction, it's a change in force, it's a change in speed. An accelerometer would identify it and pick it up. But I know there's no accelerometers on the moon, but the Earth does the same thing with regards to the sun. It starts when the Earth has a slightly elliptical orbit, and when it gets to the crest of the ellipticalness of the orbit, then that has to come back. That movement switching, like the change in its ellipticalness, would be detectable if it was actually there, and of course it isn't there.
Yeah,
it's like the libration of the moon point that Chris Monk showed on the animator, the Blender software that he uses. Libration is completely and utterly identified, explained, demonstrated on a flat Earth map, if there was such a thing. Now, when you see libration demonstrated in this way, it becomes absolutely obvious what libration is. When you look at the explanation from the ball Earth side, it's so difficult to construct in your mind what it is you think you're looking at. It makes no sense. It does make sense, but you have to do a lot of thinking to explain what you're looking at. And in reality, we can demonstrate what libration is, and it's done in seconds. So which is the easiest one to accept? Is it the one that's shown in seconds, or is it the one that needs lots of complex pseudoscience nonsense to explain that you have to believe? Or is it the easier one just to model it and see what it does? And of course, my position is that it's the easiest one to model it and see what it does.
Yeah.
I want to mention. Are we finished on that topic?
Yes, I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
Well, before you move on, Ranty's now in the queue, so Ranty's got something he wants to show a video. So if you're still there, Ranty, do you want to go next? Yeah, I think he's probably busy. So you go ahead, Anthony.
All right, I'll screen share. This is not going to be that easy, actually. But I'm dedicated. Google Hangouts has become incredibly slow to respond. I can't even get to my screen share button because it won't bring the tabs back up from the background.
Yeah, I'm showing that on screen. So for the audience, when I'm changing people's volume, you probably notice that the volume tab stays up for what seems to me like an eternity. And it's because it's so slow to react. Just to turn someone's volume up takes 60 seconds. And then to get rid of the screen again takes another 30 seconds just after you've clicked X on it. And if you do anything else in the meantime, things start to go wrong. Anthony's just shared, and I'm now sitting here filling time because it's not actually popped up. I can see his screen share, but nothing's on my screen. So the whole Hangouts thing just seems to be slow as all frig.
Yeah, it's mad. Nathan started mentioning this maybe 2 weeks ago, and at the time, mine was just happily doing its normal thing, and I just thought, yeah, crap computer or whatever. Mine's caught up with this now. I will drop behind like his has, and it's horrendous. So let me know what's when it's being shared so everyone can see it.
Yeah, it's not just not. It maybe won't because it's just permanently on your swinging warrior at the moment.
Okay, it should do in time. I'll load up my point I want to make.
Need one of those like old BBC screenshots with the girl holding the doll, the colour chart.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
I've knocked it off and I'll reshare it because I don't know. See, now mine's working perfectly.
Nothing but black. Doesn't want to know. What do you know?
Oh, hang on. I'm screen sharing a black screen, am I?
Yeah.
Right, that might be me. Hang on. Application window. Yeah, I had the wrong window. Oh, did I? No, I didn't. That's the correct one. Right, it should be a Google page.
Wah, wah, wah. Nope.
All right, well, I'll have to do it without evidence until it catches up. Just let me know when it interrupts.
Verbally do it, and hopefully it'll pop up on screen eventually.
Yeah. So just let me know when you've got it on screen so that I know that it's being shown. Right, so slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena says in chat, he said, have a look at the post hoc fallacy. Now, the problem with the fallacy argument is that there's a fallacy for everything, and you have to really weed out the weaker fallacies, because you can have a fallacy, which is the overuse of the fallacies argument, which is absolutely true. We're all in that trap, so we've got to be careful with the fallacies that are genuinely true. But this is probably...
Because somebody uses that fallacy doesn't mean that their argument's wrong.
Correct.
It's just a poor way of arguing.
Correct. Now, yesterday... okay. So I'll put this on the to-do list. I will not agree with everything that you say. Says, explain flat Earth moon libration, you liar. Why? Do you know what? There you go. I will not agree with everything you say. I'm quite prepared to demonstrate it, but because you called me a liar, I'm actually not going to bother. So F you. We don't need to respond to people like you. Anyway,
there is a video on my channel called Flat Earth Libration. Go and check it out.
Yeah, and give a like or a dislike. Like the video if you liked it, dislike the video if you disliked it, and leave a comment so that we know that you actually did do it. Anyway, post hoc fallacy is where you say that because one thing follows the other, it means therefore logically that one thing has caused the other. So, for example, the sun comes up in the morning, and when the sun comes up in the morning, the birds start cheeping. The birds start cheeping is basically the post hoc fallacy says that the birds have started cheeping because the sun comes up. So you make a direct causal link between the two. Now, the reality is they probably do, but the sun doesn't cause the birds to start cheeping. The birds start cheeping because they think the sun's coming up or whatever. I don't know exactly why they start cheeping, but it is to do with the sun coming up. Maybe that's a bad example. But anyway.
It's a good example because the cock crowed, he made the sun come up. A post hoc ergo propter hoc.
Yeah, that's a better one. We used to have wood pigeons. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Forget it. So the post hoc fallacy is that one thing follows another, therefore it was caused by it, all right? And there's no causal link. And this is essentially the issue with ballers, because they make causal links all the time, but don't prove causation. They claim it as a post hoc fallacy, and essentially that's one of the things that we need to be aware of. And it's always a good shout to call somebody out on something that they make, which looks like it's probably a post hoc. Because if it is post hoc, then they have a real problem showing it, because you have to show a causal link. You have to show that there is actually one that's causing the other. Now, are we presenting yet, Nath?
No, man. It's just not going to work, I don't think.
Okay. Right. So Sean Hufford yesterday released a video that says light doesn't travel. Now, I try and ignore Sean because he's essentially a liar. And I'll qualify that by saying that he claimed that he was, quote, going legal on me for a defamation of character case, I think it was, and in which he claimed that he had legal correspondence from client to solicitor and solicitor to client with docs information on it that he wouldn't show me, blah, blah, blah. I asked him to prove that he was going legal. He claimed he had a meeting with a judge and all this nonsense, and it's nonsense. So Sean is a liar. He is literally a liar, and I'll tell him to his face time and time again, and it is the reason why I don't bother with you, Sean, because you are a liar. You did not go legal. You couldn't afford to go legal. And even if you did, you wouldn't have won because I did you favors. You didn't suffer any loss. But that's another point. This liar brought out a video yesterday challenging the concept that light doesn't travel. In the video, he brought out a little laser line, little laser. It's like a little gun thing. You press it and a laser fires on the wall and it tells you how far away the wall is. It's the same kind of tool that Al Kay used with his when he was measuring Miles' step. And what his argument was that when you press the button and the laser lights up on the wall, it measures the distance by calculating the time it takes for it to zoom out the lens, bounce back off the item and then back to the photoreceptor that's in the little device, and it measures that the time it takes for that to happen. And he commits the post-hoc fallacy because what he's saying is that it measures the laser, the time that the laser takes to leave the unit, hit the wall, and then bounce back, because he sees the laser on the wall, and therefore he's associating the laser on the wall with the actual the reading that he sees on the thing. Now that may well be true. The way it's explained by science is that it's measuring the light as it emits from the handle, hits the wall, and comes back. And that's the explanation. So he's reciting what the science is claimed, but it works the same as a speed camera. It does measure the response between the emission of something and the receiving of something, but it's not the light that it's measuring. It's not the photons. It's not the light that he sees on the wall, the laser on the wall. The laser on the wall is where the thing is pointing at, and it's a guide. It's used as the guide so that you're pointing at the right part of the thing that you're looking at. The pulse that it emits, you can't see. So what he's saying is that it's the laser that's being measured, but it's not. The laser is simply there to guide you to what you're actually pointing at. That which is being measured, yet he doesn't prove. He claims, but doesn't prove it. Now, the reason why it's post-hoc fallacy is because he claims that when you press the button and the laser's lit up on the wall, it's measuring the laser. Now, that is the explanation by science, but the problem is he can't prove it. And the reason why you can't prove it is because the photoreceptor is the way I understand these, the way that these actually work is that it's like the Gatto speed gun, whereas it pulses out like a radar and it receives it instantly. So it's like it goes out and then comes back, but it's not the laser it's measuring. It's the pulse that comes out from the pulse generator underneath. So it's a send and receive signal from the unit that's underneath. When he turns the unit side on, you'll see that there's a laser diode, which is where the laser comes out of. But underneath, there's what looks like the Gatto camera thing, which basically looks like the pulse generator. So it's a pulse generating receiver, which sends and receives the pulse. But he thinks it's the laser that it's receiving. Now, I may be wrong on this. I've looked into it. I've seen the science on it. But I've also looked at the construction of these laser-guided things. The laser is the guide. The measurement is created by the pulse that is sat below the laser. And it works on the same as the Gattenberg speed camera. If you look at the Gattenberg speed camera, that sends out a pulse as well, which it sends and receives. And it's basically a small radar. That's why they've got a range, a very, very small range. So it'll send out a little ping data, and it'll go to where you've got the laser on the wall. And it'll literally pulse it out, and it'll go out, and then it'll hit the wall, and it'll come back. And it uses basically radar to do it. But because he sees the laser on the wall, and that's a manifestation that his eyes can see and corroborate and knows that it's there, he thinks that it's measuring the light to the laser, and it's not. It's measuring the time it takes for the pulse generation to go out, hit the wall, and come back to its receiver. And it's not as far as I'm aware, and I may be wrong. And if I'm wrong, Sean, show me. Unscrew the lid. Show us what's inside your thing. Show the photoreceptor, and then show the unit, and then show us what the unit is. Because I understand it's a Gattenberg speed camera. Effectively, it's a pulse generator and a pulse receiver, and that's what you're measuring. You're measuring the pulse. It's like a small amount of radar. It's like a little radar beam that goes out and it goes ping, ping, and that's what you're actually receiving. But you think that it's the light because you see the light on the wall. Post-hoc, therefore, is that you see the light and it's measuring the speed of light. I don't think it is. It's measuring the time it takes for the pulse generator to pulse it out and then send it back in its radar, essentially. I mean, it's a simpler version of, and it's very weak, powerful, but that's what they're actually measuring. And you can test it, because if it was the light, if you put it on an angle, if you get like something that's like a pane of glass, and if you, instead of putting it square to you, 90 degrees to you, so you get a nice reflection back to you, flick it away from you so that it's pointing up towards the sky, and then see what result you get, because the light is bouncing off into somewhere else. It's not going back to the photon receiver that you think's there, and the light is going elsewhere, so no light's coming back to it. But the radar will still hit the object that's there, even though it's deflecting off to a different angle. There's still an object there, and that's why you get the pulse back to it. So basically, the post-hoc fallacy is seeing the light, associating it with the result that you get on the screen, and thinking that you're measuring the speed of light, but actually all you're measuring is the pulse generating diode that's inside, and the receiver that receives it back, which is essentially small radar.
So we have approximately 1 hour left on this live stream. If you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it has rendered. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below the video to join the show and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin this show using a sock account. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next show. Please also share the show, as this increases the chances of us having a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There is approximately 1 hour left on this live stream.
It's something similar to what was said yesterday about working out the distance to the sun by Venus going across the face of the sun. Remember that yesterday?
Yeah.
And the post hoc is basically because of this, therefore this. And the assumption is how far away is Venus in the first place, and what assumptions did they use to find that out as well?
That argument, that's what he's referencing. It's a cyclical argument, because they say, well, how far is the distance to the sun? And they say, well, the transit of Venus. Well, okay, well, how did they work out the transit of Venus? And then they usually go to something like the transit of Mars. Okay, how did they get to the transit of Mars? The transit of the moon. Okay, so how did they get to the transit of the moon? Transit of Venus. Like, right, so we're back to square one. And even if they don't get back to square one, I've heard it argued different ways. Where did the numbers that get into the scale come from? Because you have to know one of them to get everything else. I accept and agree they've got the scale right, but the numbers that go into the scale are infinite. You can have infinite distances and the scale would still be correct, but it doesn't mean that the numbers that go into the scale are correct. And that was what we were trying to get to yesterday. Yeah,
if we bring Venus just to a mile away, and it goes across a bright disk that we call the sun, you just come out with a different answer, but the same thing is observable. Because of this, therefore this, it is a logical fallacy.
Yeah, you can't claim it proves the distance to anything if those distances are being changed intermittently.
Yeah, and then you've got redshift, whatever the hell that is. I've had conversations with scientisms before, and they say, oh, it's redshift. Well, what does that actually mean? Because something changes colour or has a different
it's a Doppler effect, isn't it?
We know how far away it is. Right, okay. I don't buy that.
Well, everything's subject to redshift as far as we can tell, which puts us at the centre of the universe. Everything's moving away from us. Hence,
no, we're not at the centre of the universe.
The redshift is essentially you seeing I hope they get this the right way around. The length of the wave is increased if something is moving away from you. Therefore, the colour spectrum moves towards red. Whereas if something's moving towards you, the wavelength is shortened, therefore moves towards the blue spectrum. So that's it. I think I'm correct in labelling the Doppler effect in terms of how you measure. The easy way to auditorize, visualize, but with your ears, is an ambulance. So when it's coming towards you, the wavelength is being compressed as it gets towards you. It's being projected towards you, and the ambulance is coming towards you. Therefore, the wave gets shorter and shorter, and then as it passes you, the wavelength is getting longer and longer. So it sounds like it's physically elongated that sound wave. And that is in essence the Doppler effect. But that's what redshift is, and from our perspective, that's all we see. So in essence, everything's moving away from us. Therefore, we're at the centre.
And there's an assumption it's moving, because there's no way to actually measure a star is moving away from us.
Quite correct.
This obviously then goes back to the argument over angular size, which the ballers simply don't understand. They deliberately misrepresent this and then claim that I'm being stupid when I do it, when I correct them, because you cannot tell the distance to any object unless you know its actual size. You have to know its actual size, but to know its actual size, you need to know its distance. So it's a circular thing. You need one or the other to get the other. So whichever one you're going to go with, be it distance or size, you need to know the other. And the point is, yeah, you can work out the angular size because it's like 3 arc minutes or 6 arc seconds. Yeah, but what's that in relation to? Is that in relation to your protractor that you're measuring it with? Or is it in relation to its actual size? And you don't know its actual size. So I don't care what reference you're using. It matters what is its actual size, not its perceived size or its apparent size. Its actual size, and they don't know any of that. But they obfuscate that to death by claiming, "Oh yeah, you're just a retard." No, you need the distance to know its actual size. You need the actual size to know the distance, and that's where Hank Hill got Paper Explanator on the ropes, because he realised that, and Paper Explanator obfuscated his way around that topic to death, and basically Hank lost attention. He lost his attention span in the process, and that's not a criticism of Hank. I'm pointing out that Paper Explanator obfuscated that point to death and was successful. And if Hank would have realised he was being obfuscated, he would have kept him on track and he would have won the point. The point is, angular size is a sum, whereas angle size is a measurement, and you need the sum to work out the distances. Can't do it by a perceived angle. Doesn't work. So it's just another nonsense charade that the ballers pull on you to try and claim that, well, it's X amount of seconds and arc seconds and minutes. And it's like, yeah, it sounds all scientific and a physicist, like professional and all that nonsense. But the reality is, if you don't know the size, I'm sorry, but you don't know the distance. And we don't know the size of anything. We really don't. And the Betelgeuse and Sirius star point yesterday is valid. One star's 7 light years away, or 8 light years away. It's one of the closest stars. And then the other one that's next to it in the sky, Betelgeuse, is like 640 or 460 light years away. It's like, it's colossal distance away. They don't parallax, and there should be parallax. And you have fantasists like Nick with Noel that claim, oh, we can measure the parallax because we've got stellar aberration. And it's just nonsense. All you're seeing with this stellar parallax point that Nick with Noel makes, you're seeing the flexation of the firmament. Prove me wrong, Nick. You prove that we're not seeing that, because what you're calculating for doesn't account for the fact the distance involved between Betelgeuse. I mean, if we did the percentages on it to work out how far away Betelgeuse would be, you're measuring like millionths of a degree and claiming that is parallax of the distant stars. And I look at that and go, nah, that's just convection currents, bro. Bit of warmth from underneath. It's going to flex the dome above us. That's all you're measuring there. Because we do see the stars in a structure. They appear to be fixed. They appear to be fixed to each other, and they're not spinning. We are not spinning underneath them. They are spinning above us. So it appears that there's a structure up there of some kind, but you guys want us to believe that it's this multi-dimensional nonsense that we need rockets for to go and explore and all that. It's nonsense. The stars look close. None of them look far. The light does not travel to us. Our eyes focus on the light source, and we see it. Those show photons. Can't show photons. Double slit experiment confuses everybody to death. Yet that's claimed to be the science. It's nonsense. We see the stars because they're close. If they were far away, we wouldn't see them. Inverse square law applies to light. It goes so far away. I mean, if you get a little LED on your phone, say your phone pulses when it says the battery's flat and it pulses blue to tell you that you've got to recharge it, you go stand at the end of the road and see if you can see that blue light. Can you hell? Nonsense. Light diminishes with distance. Them stars are close. A 5-year-old can tell you how far away they are. They're close, Daddy. They're not millions of light years away, millions and millions of miles away. They're not. It's nonsense.
I'd like to share my screen if you can.
Good.
Arwen.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you got out of bed early.
Yeah, I got up specially for this occasion.
Check it out. Ranty got to share immediately. No fuss, no muss.
Awesome. This is the 55th video that I ever did. It's amazing when I look back at this stuff and see the things that you actually see in it. I'll show you my location in a minute, but I want to play the video first. So I'm on the beach. As you can see, I'm right next to the water, you know, and I'm looking over towards Southport, Wales, Liverpool. This is between South Pier and Central Pier and South Pier. And when I zoom in, obviously you can see the wind farms. But I want to pay attention to bloody hell. Hang on.
It's actually not that loud for us, Ranty, the noise.
Oh, is it not? Right,
No.
okay. He's drilling away. The important part is when I zoom out and I pan across to the left. These are all suffering refraction, these wind farms.
Real refraction, not bending around the Earth refraction.
This is the important part. Just now, can you see all these mountain ranges in the background here?
Yes, I can see them, but I'm having to look at them on my iPad to see them.
Right,
So.
that's okay, because I've already screenshotted it.
Yes, I've got it.
Can you see all these mountain ranges here?
Yeah, that's much clearer, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what I've done is I've got another image up, and that's not the one, here. I've used Google Earth to match up the area in question.
Yeah, that's a good match.
Okay, and then when we go to Google Earth, this is what it's showing us, but we do have a bit of extra hill here that isn't actually shown from this, so I might have to scroll in and find out what that is. I'm assuming it's something further away. It must be this hill here. So anyway, these are the ranges, mountain ranges that we're looking at from here. In fact, it stretches all the way. Where are we? Which one's this? Yeah, that's the one. Properties. I hope you can't hear that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, we could.
It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Hang on, let me lower the screen. Lower it down a bit. Is that better?
It's all good.
So when we
Honestly,
do
don't worry
the
about it.
elevation profile, obviously we're going up and we're going down, etc., etc. But the distances involved mean that none of this should be visible. None of these mountain ranges should be visible. This is where my location is, here, between the two piers. You'll see I bypass the pier here. I look past the pier. This one, what's the distance on that? Yeah, that's the one. Properties, measurements, that's 63 miles, this one. And we're seeing all of that mountain range. All of this mountain range here, we're seeing from there, all the way across here. The elevation profiles only go up to about 2,000 feet, to the very tippy toppies of them. When we do Google Earth, put the 63 in on Metabunk, refracted hidden 2,041, actual hidden 2,400, the drop 2,600. None of that should be seen, but on the evidence, we're seeing all of that mountain range.
Killing it, Ranty. You're killing it.
You can see it. Look at this. All that should be hidden. These are massive mountains in the background, 2,000 feet. All of them should be gone.
You're going to have to carry on that sentence from now on. Make it really concise. So all of these mountains should have disappeared around the curvature of the Earth and be blocked by a wall of Earth curve. Therefore, we shouldn't see them if we believe or choose to believe that we live on a sphere. Just to make it that much more concise. Because if you say all these should be gone, any flat earther or globehead watching knows exactly what you mean. But for the random guy who tunes in and goes, what do you mean it should be gone? Well, it should be gone around the curve of the nonsensical Earth you think you live on. But it's there, we see it, and we see it, this is the most important bit, because the Earth's not a sphere, the Earth is in fact a plane. It's flat. That's why we just see it.
Is that Snowdonia that you're looking at when you say the mountain?
It's not. Snowdonia's to the right, which is over here. That's actually evidenced in the video too. So I might go back and show you the video again.
Let's see that.
And you're in Hoy Lake?
No, I'm between North Pier and Central Pier and South Pier.
In Blackpool? In
Blackpool, yeah.
Ah, right, okay. So you can see the Snowdonian Mountains from Blackpool?
Yep.
Because people in Dublin can
see... Well, there's Snowdonia's there. That's the Snowdonia Mountains behind these wind farms here. Look, you see them all in the background?
Yeah.
Here, in the background. There. This part here, definitely there. And and
You've
here
got
behind
quite a
this
lot
wind
more
farm.
motion in the water, a bit like Mark's image. So in other words, you do have some chop also interfering with it. And correct me if I'm wrong, this smudge that we saw yesterday, we kind of came to the conclusion that was also the oil rig. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. It's actually flashing. You can see the light flashing on it.
Obviously, you've got lots of chop, lots of dirty air, obstruction
snowdonia
formerly
there.
known as curvature.
That's snowdonia in that location here, and then when we pan out and we go across to the right, this is the other mountain range here. So basically, if I go onto Google Earth, what I'm saying is that all these mountains, every part of these mountains are evidenced in this video. All of this. Everything. And you're looking at what distances of up to 70 miles away. I mean, none of these mountain ranges should be seen. Not a single thing of these should be seen. But as you can see, we're seeing so much of it. I mean, look how high it is in comparison to the pier, which is, I believe, around about 30 feet in height. It's halfway up the pier. You know, and you can see on the video how close I am to the water.
Yeah.
Is there any other land it could be?
Sorry?
Is there any other land it could be?
Absolutely not. There's the big one, roller coaster. There's Central Pier. So if I go to Google Earth, I'll show you where I was. So here we have the roller coaster, which is here. This is the theme park, Pleasure Beach. This is Central Pier. This is where I was standing on the beach. You can see that I'm looking in this direction. There we go. So as I look over there, I've got here, the big one there to the left. And if I look in the video, you'll see that. So you got the big one, then you've got the pier. I'll just play it back a bit. You'll see. I'll zoom out. So there's the pier, there's the mountains. So if I take a direct line to that, it takes me here, to these mountain ranges here.
What's the peninsula before it? I mean, could it just not be some of the land in the foreground?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Are you sure it's the mountains? It's not just
if you scroll,
the coast.
If you scroll out, you can see that there's other coastlines that are pre the mountains.
Yeah, but when I've come in and I've taken a screenshot of this area here, and I've overlaid it with what I'm seeing in here, you can see where it matches up. There's a nice drop off there, which is here. Then it comes down a little and goes down, comes down a little and goes down, then it goes up again, goes up again.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but the one thing that the process of going through the Isle of Man has taught me is that there is, I don't know what, there's a sort of fractal nature to our world where when you look at these sorts of distances, stuff in the landscape, the topology of the land can easily look exactly the same in all direction. In other words, is it the end of the Isle of Man? Is it Scotland? Is it Ireland? You know, Lottie's in there going, definitely Ireland. And you're like, well, yeah, we made that mistake because there's a simulacra, if that's the right word, I don't think it is. There's a certain similarity to the topology of the land in all directions when looked at distance. Therefore, if there is a potential that this could be a peninsula of low-lying land, there's a very good chance that even though it's hundreds rather than thousands of feet high, it would have exactly the same appearance, in the same way as Ireland, when scaled a certain way, can look exactly the same as the Isle of Man scaled a different way. There's a certain likeness to everything. The same applies when you look at it.
It's because of the nature how basically dust and earth settles and spreads itself around with the turbulence and the wind and everything around it. So it orders itself in a similar fashion.
I describe it as being fractal. You know, when you look at the LiDAR map from above, it looks like a brain. You know, it's that fractal pattern that emerges, which essentially means that as you look along sight lines, everything looks like everything else. It's very, very similar. So it's easy to misidentify landmasses. We've done it ourselves. We've had to eat a lot of humble pie as a result. And I'm not embarrassed about that. It's taught me how the world looks and why it looks the way it does. You've got to make these mistakes and draw these conclusions incorrectly to learn hard lessons. But, you know, it's one where from that position now, I can say it looks like it's the mountains, it smells like it's the mountains. You can draw an outline around it and make it seem like it's the mountains, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I'm just putting it out there. I've got to play devil's advocate.
No, Nathan's right. Like, we shouldn't jump to conclusions again, or...
Well, it's not jumping to conclusions.
No, Donia.
It's not jumping to conclusions.
No, we're seeing something there, and that's still, if that's not just the ocean. So either it is some something off the coast or the mountains. It's either way. It's very far away. So does it really even matter to prove flat Earth? Really?
Well, yeah, because none of this should be seen. None of this should appear on a ball Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
None of it at all.
Just one quick line, and then I'm going to go make a quick coffee. A guy we had on yesterday called Ruhif. His name's Glenn, Australia. He's up now he's up late at night whilst we're up early in the morning. He's going to come on tomorrow, and he's going to represent the trig, and he's going to challenge me to where the trig is wrong. So just to let you know, ball earther, trig, coming on tomorrow.
Oh God.
Sounds like a good Paul Voigt replacement, so that's a good thing. So I'm looking forward to that. Make sure he doesn't turn up. Make sure he does turn up anyway. So I'm off to make a quick brew. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, I will put the flip side of the coin as well, Arwin and Ranty, which is to say that you've got to put these things out there as assertions, otherwise no one will take them seriously and want to debunk them. If you just say, I don't really know what this is, but I think it might prove flat Earth, then it's easily ignored. So you have to make assertions in the first instance, and I'm glad that people like Ranty are prepared to stick their neck out and do it. You know, and I will, again, like I said right at the beginning of the show, highlight the fact that this is being put out for debate. You know, yes, we've got to assert things, but, you know, we're saying, is it strong or isn't it? Without saying that by putting it out in debate format. And Ranty's got thousands of these videos.
Well, I will assert that it is a land mass sticking out over the ocean. So
that's a safe bet there, if ever I've heard one, Arwin.
Hey, yeah, a safe bet is a winning bet usually. So
I don't think you'd get much better than 1-to-1 odds with that, though, mate.
So what elevation would you give me here, guys? Because obviously this is going to be a bone of contention.
How high's the tripod? That's what I'd give you. You're on the beach and it's perfectly flat. So, you know, you're on the water, but for a few inches in the tripod.
That's it. Because I'm sure that somebody will come and say he's at least 50 feet.
Some guy on the comments yesterday, right? When we worked it out, we looked at the sea levels and, you know, not carefully, but roughly worked out that you were about 12 feet once... Oh, come here. Once you dropped your tripod, you're about 12 feet. We worked that out to the low tide. And then arbitrarily you were like, well, we'll call it 20 in case anyone argues. And I was like, no, why? You know, we've roughly worked it out. We might be out by a couple of feet, but we're not stating it is your height. We're just saying, you know, roughly here or thereabouts. Very Miles Davis, you know, that sort of thing. And then once that's been put out there, a guy comes along and goes, no, there's easily an extra 10 feet to that low tide. You're like, what? So he's 30 feet in the air now, is he? 30 feet. So we've just had all these arguments about that position at St. Bees being 30 feet. This guy's got literally you on your knees on the sand going, yeah, definitely 30 feet.
But yeah, it's just, you know, these are videos that I've never even thought about checking. I went out and I didn't realise I even had these. It's only today and yesterday that I've been looking through these and realising exactly what I'm actually seeing now. Because I had no, you know, when I first did this was when I first started on Flat Earth. I bought the P900 just to do some observations and had no idea how to go about analysing it. So, you know, everything that's happened, like even putting these wind farms on Google Earth, this is something new that I've only started doing today, basically, because of what Miles Davis did. So without him doing this, I would never have done this. So it's when you have the ballers coming in and they're making assertions and they're pushing you to improve your evidence. Well, this is what we're doing. We are pushing ourselves to improve the evidence, and this is what we're coming through. We're looking through the wind farms here, and we're seeing snow. The mountain ranges in the back. This is Snowdonia here. This is a high mountain. You should see the very tips of this because it goes up to like 3,000 feet or so. But all this other stuff over here, you shouldn't see. And then you've got, obviously, Alkay. He's making assertions. I'd like to see what he says about these Met masts that are here. If he can find the 3 Met masts and tell me that I've got them misidentified, that's all good. Let's see what he can bring.
Yeah, but the land, like you say, that it'd be nice to get it debunked in 4 ways. Yes, the oil platform, potentially it could be moved, right?
Yep.
The Met masks and the land itself, they ain't moving anywhere. Same goes for the wind farms.
There's a sec. I got someone.
Ranty hotline.
Probably Mark Taylor giving me a ring.
Giving you a wake-up call.
And of course, the onus is, of course, on the ballers, because once we've made the assertion that we think this is what we're looking at, then nobody would want us to be putting out lies, would they? So they need to be corrected, because otherwise people that are stupid that are watching this and thinking that they believe everything that we say, they'll think that the Earth's flat. We need you ballers to show us that the Earth's a ball. So it's up to you guys to correct the misperceptions that we've got, because it appears that the Earth that we live on appears to be flat. Certainly where we live, it's flat. It's flat as a pancake.
That was
Why do you say this? Are you dangling a ball on a string in front of these globers?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so mean.
But Randy yesterday says to me, he was showing me some of these photos, right? And I was like, yeah, the whole thing's flat, Ranty. I've travelled all over the place. It doesn't look any different anywhere. And he says, well, it's certainly flat locally. Do you think it could just be flat round by me?
Well, it just seems like every video that I pull out, doesn't matter which one I go to now, it just seems that we're seeing flat everywhere. So,
you know what? I got a new theory. Maybe it's a quantum mechanical effect, like with light. And if you observe the Earth enough around you, then it becomes flat. But when you don't observe it, it's a ball.
Oh, I like that one. It's like the double slit experiment. If you watch it, it's flat, but really, if you don't watch it, it's a ball.
Yeah.
Do you know, that's
it's
really
like it's a collapsing curve function.
I like that one. That's a really good one. So if you look
at
the
Earth, my God. So here we are, straight slap bang heading directly for simulation theory. Yeah. Right, I'm going to open a vein.
Yeah, by the way, the other day you were talking with that physicist. I was kind of cringing in the sense that, damn it, why wasn't I there? Because I had some things to say. I dumped it in Skype basically afterwards. But yeah, when it comes to the discussion about the double slit experiment and hey, is it a particle or a wave? I've put some thought to that, and I'd like to quote that if I may.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's just say that I have come to the conclusion that light is not a particle, that it never is a particle. Light is like an arc of electricity, but on a microscopic level. The wave is like an electric arc of light, particle-sized, and its object touching position diversifies constantly to balance out its arc within the pathway it can possibly follow, where there is no obstruction. And then I follow that up with a particle. I'm basically dispelling the concept of particles Because the more I start to think of it, and I'm comparing this even with the new age approach, everything is energy, and I'm starting to think that particles are more and more theoretical, separated particles. Even in chemistry, talk about loose atoms, but it's never like that. You can't separate a single atom really, or at least I really doubt that this is possible. So a particle is a boundary-alike state of existence of energy. Singular particles are theoretical to make defining the workings of things more conform with math in order to conceptualize them. That was it.
I need to give a shout out to Squeaker Alpha. Squeaker Alpha is a baller. He's a troll. Never had any communications with him other than like ad hom attacks on videos. I blocked him on my channel ages ago, but I saw a comment from him and he said something along the lines of, "What happened to Blackpool Tower, Riley, Hoylake?" And I was like, "Do you know what? That's actually a really good observation, a really good point." So I went back over my older stuff, like Ranty's doing right now, and I dug out the original evidence and found it and presented it. Oh, by the way, that turbines that you've got on screen right now, Ranty, looks a lot like Pontchartrain, but flat. Just saying. Anyway, Squeaker Alpha laughed at me and said, "Hey, what about Blackpool Tower, Riley?" So I rehashed the video and made it more modern, did more stuff because obviously I've learnt more since back then. I know how to do more stuff on video editing and represented it. And last night on Globebusters, Jaren or Bob, shout out to Jaren and Bob, they both played, or one of them played the whole video. All right, at the time, Jaren was ranting about copyright strikes and how YouTube had been like weird about stuff, but nonetheless, he played the whole video. So shout out to Squeaker Alpha. That wouldn't have happened but for you, mate. 30 miles, the Earth is flat as FC UK.
I want to shout out Philip because Philip's been a great guest. I mean, he's just sparked off Arwin, and Arwin's got great points on this subject. I mean, we've been talking to Quantum Eraser, or hopefully will be soon. It's just time zones that seem to constantly stop us from doing so. But you know, he's got a bee in his bonnet for exactly the same sort of stuff. And you know, it's a very interesting subject that's been spurred off by Philip, and he's a very cordial, very polite, and even for a globehead, quite even-handed in terms of his approach. So far, he's been probably my favourite globehead guest.
That child in the background, I know it's Eleanor, but the child in the background sounds just like the trolls in chat. Wow.
She's got the flu. We've all had the flu for about a week, so she's really ill. But I can mask it and cough while the mute button's on and people don't get disturbed by it. But she's just like, she's ill.
Anyway, my new physicist stance is that separate particles don't really exist. So putting that out there to be challenged in that sense, because I think that even light is just constantly a wave. It's just that the way that we get to analyze it may suggest to us with those dots that it may actually be a particle, but that may just be a deception to us. It's almost like us automatically assuming that because we see a round disk out there, the moon and the sun, that they must be balls. And thus in the microscopic, we are assuming they are little balls as well. I think that the ball system in our psychology, the separation system, as it were, turning things into balls, may run a lot deeper, literally, than we all realize. I think the balls are all over physics as well.
Yep.
Silence.
Well, it's because the implications are beyond me, if I'm honest. That's why I'm in stunned silence, because I don't know. I get what you're saying, but I don't know what the implications would be.
Well, the implications is that as we basically learn about physics, we do this through math, and this math tells us to, it separates things into particles and atoms and all that stuff, and then apply like the chemical interactions and the workings of those particles, which are still those are real, but in our mind, we basically see them as separate, loose objects, like a particle or a atom or a molecule, just to calculate it. This is like a mathematical assistance for us. Turn it into a skeleton system. But in reality, I doubt that any of these particles can really separately exist. It's just like in chemistry, you theoretically break up components into a chemical reaction and it transforms into another type of matter. But if you actually do it in chemistry, if you actually do it with substances, you'd never do it with loose atoms and molecules. It's always an amount of this substance.
Just want to say bye to Mark. Thanks for joining, Mark. Hopefully see you tomorrow.
Yeah, cheerio, gentlemen. I'll see you all tomorrow.
See you later.
We have approximately 30 minutes left while my child climbs all over me, of course. Perfect timing. So I hope you're enjoying the debate thus far. If you'd like to join the debate, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click that link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. Please don't swear or I'll eject you. If you are ejected, please don't try to rejoin using stock accounts. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside while it's live and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the chances of a more diverse panel. Also, if you've not subscribed, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is approximately 30 minutes, maybe a little bit less, left on this live stream. Hopefully we are back. Sorry about that. We had a slight internet connection. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate if you've just joined us. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside these shows while they're live and a link in the info box below this video once the video has rendered. But most importantly, if you'd like to join the debate, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. Now, I do have approximately 30 minutes left on the live stream that's just ended temporarily, and hopefully we still have our live audience with us for the next half an hour. And we do, fortunately, as this is a continuation show, have a complete guest list of people in the Hangout, so I'll transition across to them and introduce them briefly. Hopefully they can all hear us. We do have Arwin, Sleeping Warrior, and Ranty. How are you all doing, gentlemen? Can you hear us?
We can.
Doing good. What happened?
Yep, still here. Wow, badge.
Died.
He says, when Arwin is the spokesman for your movement, you know your facts. Okay. Didn't know I was the spokesman.
You're the self-appointed spokesman.
Yeah, you mentioned something just a moment ago, Anthony, about the boat appeared to go over the horizon. Show you. Let's see where it's gone.
Back to my really
I'm not
slow
even
Hangout that
the
won't
self-appointed spokesman. I'm being appointed by these chat people.
Yeah, self-appointed by the chat people.
I don't know them. They're not my trolls, really. I don't have the money for that kind of thing.
Oh, I know it'll be.
Right, I'm going to give up on just adjusting your volume, so if everyone wants to moan in the comments about everyone's volume being all over the place, it's tough luck. It's not my fault.
I've never once seen anyone complain about the volumes, to be honest, Nate.
Am I displaying at all? I don't know if I'm...
Nah, man. Not until I can get rid of the volume bar, and then I can click on your icon. What a
right,
shambles.
okay. I don't know if I am screen sharing or not.
You are, but it's just you're just not going out to the audience yet.
Right, okay.
$50 people watching though, so at least a few people hung around.
Did you have to start up a new Hangout, or did you carry on with the previous one?
No, I just couldn't get it. It didn't come back on time to keep the other one going, so this is a new Hangout now. There you go, Ranty, you're up now.
Oh, so we got
Ranty's on.
another 2 hours.
No, half an hour.
Actually, I'll display the other video first, because this is the one that you were just mentioning, saying that it looked like the boat was going over the horizon. So I'm just going to address that. 58. It joins up. I know which one you're talking about. Where is it? Yeah, this one. Yeah. You say this one looks like it's going over the horizon.
Yeah, it's curved, man. Definitely curved. Where's the bottom of the boat?
It's gone over the horizon, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's not flat after all. Damn.
So that's what you were asking. He said it looks like it's going on. You can see the front and the back of it, but you don't see the middle of it. You know, you can see the back of it, and you can't see the middle of it, basically. If I show you the next video.
Oh, that glorious flatness.
Hopefully I should have the boat on here at some point. Had it up just a minute ago. Bear with me. That one. Probably not going to see it now, am I? Oh, there it is. This is the one that you were saying has gone over the horizon, isn't it? But all it is, it's the same effect as we saw at Hoy Lake. Where is it? The boat is just blending into the mirage line. You know, you see in the front, you're not seeing the middle, and it's just blending into the mirage line. It's still there, just blending in. And if you look at the turbines as I move in, you'll see what I'm going to talking about. I'll pause it when you see the turbines repeating themselves. There you go. You see where the mirage line is.
Ranty, do you film with a potato?
P900.
All right, so it's a question in chat.
All right, okay.
No, it's not a potato. It's a P900. It's similar.
You do realise that these wind farms are 16 miles away.
Yeah.
Does the P in P900 stand for potato?
16 miles of glorious flatness.
All right, it's flat everywhere, boys. Flat everywhere. And all that's happening, as I say, is this. When I lowered my elevation from St. Bees, this is what we saw at a higher elevation. And as we came down, the boat started to disappear. But the actual height of the boat itself stayed a consistent height above the hard horizon. So that all that was happening was the middle part was just blending out into the mirage line. And I've yet to see a debunk on this.
Troll claims glorious flatness as the windmills, and they're not even windmills, they're wind turbines, fall into the ocean. Pure genius. No, they're not falling into the ocean. They're just going into the point where we can no longer see them. Because you can
Refraction zone.
Or the invisible zone, or the bit that we can no longer see them because we don't live on a curve.
Well, it's not invisible zone. You still can see something, but it's getting blurred up, basically. So it's a refraction zone. That's what Ranty was just showing us.
I'd like to see some of these trolls present evidence of balliness. Earthers to prove that it's not a ball. Why can't the ballers prove that it is a ball? Isn't it their assertion in the first place?
Hey, come on, give them a break. They're trying really hard. It's like, look at Soundly's awesome video. If you just zoom in enough on that one part where the slant starts, then it kind of looks like a ball curve. So if you just look at that one part, then it could work, you know?
Refraction Soundly.
Just wherever you get to see that apparent drop, that gradual curve-like drop, that is where the curvature is. And then you just have to imagine that is everywhere, and then you got a ball.
Notice how the sky is reflecting underneath the sand and the water there. The bloke's walking on the sky. See that? That bloke's walking on the sky.
What?
Well, you see the mirage thing, the band of previously known as the band of dirty air that we now call the obstruction to the observer, that is actually an inverted mirage. Thanks, Slice Barcane. That bloke's walking on what looks like sky.
I can't see his feet. It's very poorly timed.
You can see that he's walking on the beach, though, but it appears to be the sky.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I just saw a slight reflection of his shoes there for a second.
I'm trying to stop it in the right.
So he's basically walking on the, how do you say this? The non-standard refraction land mirage.
He's walking on the inverted mirage that appears to the observer as obstruction.
It's land, so that makes sense. That is an actual mirage. That is actual non-standard refraction, and it causes like that mirror effect, and that happens a lot closer.
I think it's a dog. Pretty sure that's a mirage, and it's a hyena.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
No,
and he's actually in Australia. This has been all the refraction was that good this day that it was loomed all the way around the world.
God.
And he was actually
that's not a dog, it's a hyena, and that's not a white man, it's an Aboriginal, right?
That's right. Refraction's a crazy thing.
He's actually in Australia at that point, being loomed all.
Kangaroo.
So you're watching these as I'm revisiting them myself, because I can't remember what's on these. It was such a long time ago.
So Ruhif has just sent me something on Skype saying that he's got a 5-minute video, pretty much exactly what he was demonstrating yesterday. I'm not going to watch it, Glenn, Ruhif. I'm going to wait for it tomorrow. So when you come in tomorrow, we'll do it on the fly. So thanks for the link, but I'll respond to it tomorrow. Let's do the maths again tomorrow, because I'll be paying it. I'll be here. I missed it yesterday.
Can't get the focus on this one.
Yeah, but it's pretty interesting, isn't it, that the sea, especially in the far distance, it functions very differently compared to land, because land actually it collects the sunlight heat, or it generates heat because it collects the light, and that causes well this slight layer of heated air just above the ground, and that is what causes that mirror-like reflection, and it happens a lot closer in view than the standard refraction effect, which is pretty much it only starts very far off. It's interesting. It's both refraction effects but different.
I think this was from Southport, trying to look south, but you can see the issues that we get when you're trying to film this. And you see this is in focus now, but all this is crappy air. Basically, you got miraging going on, you got dirty air above it. You can see the wind turbines in the distance.
It looks like it's being smudged in Photoshop almost.
You can see the wind turbines turning there. And I think the distance is a ridiculous, you know, it's a ridiculous amount of, it's like from here somewhere, I think, sort of this distance.
Yeah, by the way, Ranty, was that footage, that last footage you showed, was that on land as well?
Yeah, that was...
then I can explain why it's probably wobbling around like that. That is actually the heat exchange of the ground that is causing turbulence, like air turbulence right above it, because of the heat exchange with the colder air above. That should like cause this weird wobbly effect like that. So that kind of explains why it's wobbling around so much. It's basically because of the heat exchange.
Yeah, I mean, all this
off the
is
ground
just
with the colder air above. That causes all kinds of turbulent patterns. It's not, yeah. It's it's not very, yeah. It is like turbulent. It goes all over the place in a fractal nature. So that causes all these irregularities.
And you can actually, like I say, you can see the wind turbines in the distance. That's the hard horizon, that's the crappy air, and that's the miraging underneath, mirage in the sky on the sands. It was all going off on this day. Anyway, that'll do for now, my presentations.
Isn't it funny that the bowlers that are in chat won't even be paying attention? They'll just dismiss this without even looking at it. Yet the reality is that we're seeing stuff that way further away than what we should do. If it's all mirages, why is it always appearing just to be perfectly flat? A little bit of distortion, but it's flat. It's ridiculous.
They're not trying to dispel what we're doing. They're just looking like desperate rats for a couple of crumbs, which they can peck on us. Like, they're just trying to find a hole and they can't find it.
Oh, they're
just waiting in the distance, hoping that we say something stupid or make a mistake or say something that is risky and could be used to ridicule us. They're not really actually working on their ball anymore, because they know we got it tight. Our fortress is armored. They can't get through, so they're just waiting for us to come out and make a mistake of some kind.
About 5 minutes left before I round this out, I think, guys.
So what have we learned today? Anything? Do you think those mountain ranges are part of Wales?
You put a lot out there to debunk, Ranty. We're all resting on our laurels, quite relaxed. You can probably tell by the dead air. We're all quite chilled at the moment.
I've learned something. That footage you took, that you showed just now, of that land with the blurry effect, that was really interesting. And yeah, what I said about it, I think that's pretty much it. It's the heat exchange from the land giving off its heat to the colder air above that is causing this weird wobbly effect that blurs up the visuals. And I think that in the ocean it doesn't do that, because the temperature of the ocean itself in comparison to the air above, that the temperature difference is never that big, so it would never really cause that kind of blurring up. That's why we don't see that there. We just get the refraction zone, which, by the way, is much farther away compared to that footage of the land. Like all these mirage type effects and blurring up of on land seems to be visible much closer than the beyond the refraction zone mirage effects that with footage like on the ocean that is a lot further away. And it does kind of explain, because people have been known to see mirages like in the desert and stuff with their own eyes.
Hey, check it out.
Yeah,
Pepe,
how much record is there of people actually seeing weird mirage type things with their own eyes on the ocean? None, really.
Hey, Pepe. Can you hear us?
Hey, Jamie.
Yeah, we hear you. Excellent. So not a one-sided argument, because we've got you here in the last 2 minutes. Awesome. What have you got to say for yourself? We've got literally a couple of minutes left.
Who, me, personally? No, I'm just a big fan of Arwen.
Oh,
I
God.
just want to hear views on a lot of different things. That's all.
Do we live on a ball?
Sorry? Do we? Of
Do we live on a ball?
course we goddamn do.
What's the best piece of evidence you accept that we live on a ball?
Man, yeah.
Pardon?
My best piece of evidence?
That we live on a ball?
I would probably start with the fact that...
So no evidence then, Pepe?
Nah, he's a complete troll.
Bye!
I think I might use that as an excuse just to round out the show there. So with that, I will say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning into this slightly disjointed debate. Be sure to, if you've not done so already, like, comment, share and subscribe. Also a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.